when it comes to technology. And I think there's quite a lot of automation. ATSs have really had to up their game. I mean, I live for the day where I can see all of an HR system integrate with an ATS and allow you to do keyword mining and set up email message chains to engage with candidates and mine through old data. I don't think there's something like a one size fits all that's quite there yet. It all seems to be sort of clunky and, you sort of have to get a few workarounds in certain things, but I'm sure we'll get there. And I think, when everybody is saying, oh, tech and AI and whatever is going to take our jobs as recruiters, I do think that that it's going to put perhaps some more pressure on performance of recruiters, but we still need people to use the technology. It doesn't run itself. And at the end of the day, people still make decisions about who to put forward and who to hire. So I think that there's room for both sides to exist and do hopefully improve the way the TA is working.
Hello everyone, and a very happy new year to everyone who has joined the channel. On this positive note, we're excited to welcome you to another episode of the Recruiting Revolution Season 3. So for our Season 3, our guest today is Charlotte Lidster from Camberley, United Kingdom. With over 6 years of extensive experience in recruitment, Charlotte is a Senior Talent Partner at Chapter 2. Welcome to the podcast, Charlotte. We're excited to have you here.
Thank you. It's lovely to be here.
Yeah. Sina, to start off our podcast, can you give us like a brief of your journey so far in the industry?
Sure. So I started off in PR and marketing, and after sort of 5 or 6 years, I'm one of those rare people that actually actively sought out a career in recruitment. And so about 13 years ago now, I joined a recruitment agency looking after predominantly B2B tech clients. And from there, I developed into, I ended up working my way through to being a in-house, talent manager, I suppose. I started off on a 3-month contract and it ended up being 3 years there, worked my way through to head of talent acquisition. So I was hiring recruiters predominantly and sales delivery managers for a creative recruitment agency across all of Europe and into North America as well. And then my role was made redundant and I set up my own company, which was Dauntless Talent Management, with the view to go and contract in-house with lots of different organizations to build up my sector experience. But the pandemic was happening around that time, so it was a little bit more challenging. I ended up doing quite a bit of contingency work for all sorts of different clients. And then most recently, sort of middle of this year, I made the move to close that business down. I was really keen to become part of a team again. And so that's why I joined Chapter 2, who are an embedded recruitment company. And our team members are deployed into different organizations to work on specific talent programs for them.
Yeah, that's amazing. If you talk about recruitment and job market, like what do you think is the current state of the UK job market?
It's definitely challenging. I think it really varies depending on which sector you're in. So, for example, if you are a recruiter or a talent acquisition partner, there's been a huge amount of change in the last sort of 18 to 24 months. We had this massive boom after the pandemic. And I think this is quite reflective in most sectors where we saw this huge increase in hike in salaries. And there was a real war for talent, which saw, everybody really progress quite substantially in terms of their career earnings. And then there was quite a big pullback from different organizations. So for the talent market or the TA market in particular, there's an awful lot of really talented people out there looking for roles at the moment, and the competition's really fierce. What I think I'm seeing kind of overall, if we're talking more broadly about marketing and the other sort of corporate sectors that I work in, is that there are definitely roles out there. Things are starting to pick up again, but there's quite a bit of hesitation. I think we've all had a lot of change in the last couple of years. People are slightly nervous about moving roles. Definitely headhunting is quite a bit harder. And just even the way people are finding positions is very different to how it would have been 4 or 5 years ago before we were in the pandemic.
Yeah, that is true. Also, talking about challenges, according to you, like you talked about quite a lot of that challenges in the market currently. So still, according to you, like, what is the most common talent challenge that that you're facing today, personally or in general? Like, what is the most common talent challenge
Do you mean as a recruiter or as a job hunter?
as a recruiter?
As a recruiter. I think finding it's the same. Do you know what? I think it's the same challenge that we always have, right? So it's always the challenge of finding the right talent. Because there's so many people that you can reach out to. Like one of the things about recruitment, you're never done, are you? There's always more sourcing. There's always more people that you can speak to. So at what point do you draw the line and go, right, I'd map the market. This is the best person for the role. You have to kind of have some sort of boundaries in place where you're willing to kind of think, this is the level that I've got to, and this is the pool that I'm going to make the decision from. I think it's hard on one point to kind of make that decision and find that level of person, but then also the challenge is trying to engage the right people, because not everybody wants to move, and even if you then do find the right person, they might not be the right fit. Your hiring manager might not be so so passionate about them. I think it's the challenge to find the talent is always going to be the biggest challenge that we have as recruiters.
Yeah, that is true. Also, there are a lot of news where companies are calling back employees who were working remotely earlier. Do you think this is like one of the challenges that could slow down the hiring process, or like people are willing to move in your area? What is the situation?
Yeah, that's a really good question, actually. I think that we're still going to see a lot of change over this because, so many people have got used to working much more flexibly than perhaps they would have done before. I think the trend happens when you see these, large global tech firms like the FAANG companies call everybody back to the office. Naturally, all other organizations follow suit. And there is an argument in place of, those water cooler moments that we talk about. I personally am a huge believer in hybrid working. I do think there does need to be more flexibility than perhaps we were allowed pre-pandemic. But I also think it's really important that we are in the office and able to work together and collaborate. And some roles perhaps more than others. So this isn't like a one size fits all. But I think you're always going to have these groups of people where, they will only be decision makers will only be willing to entertain talent who are willing to be in the office 5 days a week. You're going to have talent that absolutely will not commute 5 days a week or only want to be remote. There's really extremes of polarities. What I think probably will happen is we will see naturally a lot more people going to the office more than they would have done. Those that are more hesitant about it will probably end up perhaps moving jobs. But as I said a little bit earlier, when you see these large companies bringing everyone back into the office, I feel like you might just be kind of chasing that remote flexibility that might not always be, as popular or as common as we're seeing now. So I think that's quite a good thing to keep in mind, whether you're speaking to talent or whether it's your own career. Yes, you might be able to move for more flexibility, but how long is that company going to stick to it before you get asked to go back to work there as well?
Got it. That is true. For a change, like how do you define yourself as a recruiter?
Oh, that's a really challenging question. I hope I'm a good one. I think that I am very, very focused on the people that I'm dealing with. So stakeholder engagement and candidate engagement is really, really important to me. At the end of the day, we're in the business of changing people's lives, right? What we do at work and how much time we spend there. It's a huge chunk of our life, of our time. And for me, it's really important that when I'm engaging with people that they feel that they are really supported and listened to, and that I understand where they're coming from and what needs they need to be met with or need to have met within their career, and that I'm able to offer them solutions to that. So I think I would say that I'm probably quite empathetic, quite objective, and very much focused on trying to solve problems that people may or may not realize that they have in their career.
Yeah. That's true. Also, what do you think that, people who are inclining towards, work for in talent acquisition in the HR field, and what makes a great recruiter? Can you give some of your experiences or tips that you have, seen in the earlier days that, people can catch up to be a great recruiter?
Yeah, absolutely. I think you have to have a natural curiosity. Like the best recruiters that I know are fundamentally really interested in people. And I think that is one of the things that you have or you don't have. And that tends to set people apart. But in terms of things that you can learn, I think when you have that natural curiosity anyway, you're inclined to just try and pick up things from being around people. But I would say, shadow as many different people, as many different talent acquisition people as you can. Just always be asking for people's advice, or how would you approach this, and what do you do in that situation? Because I think this isn't an exact science, right? We're in the only sales job where your product changes its mind. So every single job that you're working on, every candidate that you're working with, every hiring manager is different, and it can vary so much. So you have to be able to think quite quickly on your feet, and just having exposure to lots of different environments and lots of different people, and how they would approach things can help you kind of draw on that knowledge to make the best decision for what's in front of you at the time.
Yeah, got it. Also, speaking about being a great recruiter, there's like one thing about I feel that people should add is networking, and you have a great LinkedIn account, and us it's amazing to see your videos. So what are some of the like networking tips that you can suggest new recruiters who are a little shy, or what are the other ways that they can do, including myself?
Yeah. Absolutely. Oh, well, thank you. That's really kind. I think everybody gets really nervous about networking, right? The moment we call it networking, it suddenly becomes this big, scary thing. Whereas in reality, it's just having a conversation. Like, the best thing to do, I think, is to be yourself. If you're a little bit nervous about putting your opinions out there, then, don't do it yet. Just kind of interact with people. People love to have a compliment given to them, don't they? So if someone's written something that you agree with, or that you want to celebrate your success, it can go a long way by just popping something like that on a LinkedIn, like a LinkedIn comment or an interaction. It really means a lot to people. And the more you start to do it, the more that they, might reach out to you. The other way that you can do it is by obviously connecting with a lot of people. I tend to advise people that I train on this, send out lots of connection requests. You don't have to explain why. But when someone then accepts it back, you can say to them, thank you so much. I really enjoyed your content. If there's anything that I can help you with, or anyone that I can introduce you to in the future, just let me know. And if you come at it from a point of what can I do for you, rather than what can I get from you, it tends to make a big difference, and people just naturally interact with you a little bit more. But just keep in mind that all it is it's a conversation from one human to another, not a big, scary networking thing that we sometimes think.
That's true. Also, as a recruiter, we anyways get a lot of DMs and a lot of questions and queries. Like with networking, it becomes, I think it gets twice. Interactions become really, really difficult. So how do you manage that?
Oh, I don't think I do. Yeah, my inbox is flooded. Like, I regularly feel really overwhelmed, because by the time you've got LinkedIn inbox, LinkedIn recruiter inbox, your work email inbox, WhatsApp, your own personal social media, it's a lot, right? I try and give myself dedicated time during the day. So like 3 times a day, I'll tend to do something. So when I post things, I don't really give it a lot of thought. It tends to be something that's just come off a conversation with someone. And while it's fresh in my mind, I'll always kind of create the content then. But I don't, I think I probably should do for LinkedIn's algorithms, but I don't then think, oh, I must reply to everybody within a set time frame. I try and block my chunks of time like that. And so it doesn't feel too overwhelming. And you think, well, for 20 minutes while I'm drinking my coffee and just having a break from interviewing people, for example, I'll go on and I'll post some things. And I try and do it so that I spend, 5 to 15 minutes connecting with people, 5 to 15 minutes commenting on posts, and then 5 to 15 minutes of responding to people that have come back to me or interacted with me, and just kind of pick it up as and when between meetings.
Yeah, that's a great tip. Also, coming back to recruitment and hiring. So, like, what are some of the great, game-changing trends that you have seen in talent acquisition so far? And what are your thoughts on, what are some of the great trends that can be, will be arising in 2025?
Yeah, definitely. I think there's a huge amount of interest in rec tech at the moment. And we're going forwards leaps and bounds from where we have been. For me personally, AI note-taking in interviews is such a game changer. I'm quite new to this, like being a bit of a dinosaur. I've only been using it for the last couple of months, and it has just saved me so much time. There's a few people that I know that have been using it that are nervous about using something like that when it comes to interviewing, because they don't necessarily trust that the AI is, capturing the right information about candidates. But essentially, the services that I've been using, MetaView in particular, they basically transcribe the interview that you're having. So it would, for example, transcribe this whole conversation between us. And you can create templates for certain questions where you ask the AI to explain or to paraphrase what the candidate has said. And if any point you want to go back and see exactly the details of that conversation, the whole video and the transcript is there, so you can pick and choose things. But it just saves so much time in having to rewrite a whole interview with someone. And I also think it removes a lot of the bias, because as recruiters, we naturally try and sell candidates to our hiring managers, right? It's what we do, what we need to do. But you can, if you have a certain unconscious bias towards someone, that can come across in what you're writing. Whereas with the AI, it really takes that away. And it's a very fair interview because it's literally just repeating what the candidate has said themselves. So I think those kinds of time-saving hacks are really good when it comes to technology. And I think there's quite a lot of automation. ATSs have really had to up their game. I mean, I live for the day where I can see all of an HR system integrate with an ATS and allow you to do keyword mining and set up email message chains to engage with candidates and mine through old data. I don't think there's something like a one size fits all that's quite there yet. It all seems to be sort of clunky, and you sort of have to get a few workarounds in certain things, but I'm sure we'll get there. And I think when everybody is saying, oh, tech and AI or whatever is going to take our jobs as recruiters, I do think that that it's going to put perhaps some more pressure on performance of recruiters, but we still need people to use the technology. It doesn't run itself. And at the end of the day, people still make decisions about who to put forward and who to hire. So I think that there's room for both sides to exist and do hopefully improve the way that TA is working right now as well.
Yeah. Also, what do you think about, AI coming into shortlisting the candidates, like shortlisting top candidates? Do you consider it as a biased thing, or it is a good thing?
I think it's a good thing, because I actually think that AI is probably less biased than we are. And at the end of the day, you, as a person, like a human, still has to decide what action to take on the back of that shortlist. So we're not completely taking out, that kind of human decision-making process. And a human, as I said, still needs to put in what the AI is looking for in the first place. So I feel like the AI does the work, but the human is still making the decisions either side of that process. So for me, I don't think that's a bad thing. But, as with all things, when they're new, you need to test them. You need to see if they work for you, if they work for your market, and to make sure, that it's fair. If you find that you're not finding great people through that process, then you need to look at it, whether that's using AI or another process. I think really the kind of proof of that is going to come to, does it allow you to hire the right person for the role? Do they stay with that company for a long time? Do they have a strong career progression? Are they a great culture fit? All of those things that we look for.
Yeah, got it. Also, we are seeing, like in 2024, we've seen the gig market rising. So do you think that, this generation is still interested in 9 to 5 jobs, or are they looking for more, gig or part-times or doing multiple jobs? So what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I definitely think that there has been some change as we go through each kind of generational group. We all learn more, we have slightly different experiences and therefore different requirements. I think the 9 to 5 for me personally have been dead for a long time. I dream of the days where I could do a 9 to 5 in one company and stay there for like 15, 20 years and have that kind of career. That was my parents' generation. It hasn't been there for me either. But then at the same time, I perhaps haven't kind of done the gig thing as much either. I think it really depends on the individual and what the sector is. I probably, because of, a lot of the roles that I work with tend to be sort of more mid to senior level. So I don't have as much exposure to early careers. But I think when you are starting out, just say yes to every opportunity that comes your way. And if that looks like you having to do a lot of gigs and blend things together, as long as you have your boundaries in place, you're really organized and you're making sure that you carve out time for, your own mental well-being, and that you're making sure you're having breaks. My personal opinion is the more exposure, the more experience that you can get, the more you're going to learn. And it takes us a while to figure out what we want to do, right? I know a lot of people that still don't know what they want to do at 40. So, you don't need loads of pressure to figure out what 9 to 5 you need when you're fresh out of education.
Yeah, that's true. Charlotte, as my last question, like what do you think, like what will recruitment will look like in 2025?
I think that we will see a lot more automated AI technology coming into place. I think that the competition for talent is going to remain quite hard. I don't think that and the competition for jobs being the same, if I'm honest. I don't think we're suddenly going to have a big boom like we did a few years ago. I think we're still kind of finding our feet, and there's a lot of to speak globally, there's a lot of change across all different countries and continents. I don't think there's any particular one area that is very safe economically, or, we're all kind of navigating different things. And that always kind of impacts its way into the job market. But I think that as time goes on, it is starting to level out a little bit more in quite a few of the countries that I recruit within. So I think that globally we'll start to see um, a little bit more calmness, a little bit more structure. I definitely think there's going to be an upturn, but I think it's going to be quite a slow, gradual take up there. And I think my biggest tip is just to learn and embrace as much technology as you can, whether you're using that to look for a job yourself or whether you're recruiting, and just kind of try all these different things out, see what works. If you can become an early adopter of something, that's always going to be really good for your career as well.
Yeah, that's true. Also, how talent acquisition leaders should approach 2025.
That's a good question too. I think that we've learned a lot in the last couple of years, and I think that it's really important that we remember those things. Talent acquisition for me, and I've seen this for many years, it tends to run 100 miles an hour in one direction and then kind of spin around 180 and go somewhere else. And for me, I think that the industry would do really well if it was just a little bit more aware, a little bit slower, perhaps a little bit more paused in terms of what it is that it's looking to achieve and where it's looking to go next. There are some really amazing talent acquisition professionals, some great work being done, and yet we still get so much slack, don't we, on social media channels for never replying to people and all these kinds of things. And I just think as a talent acquisition leader, the more that you can do to kind of champion people to really put their hiring managers and their candidates at the forefront of the mind and come at it from a service-led position, I think would really help go some way to try and change that perception.
Yeah, that is true. Charlotte, thank you so much for being on the podcast. It was such a amazing, cool talk. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you. It was my pleasure. I really appreciate you inviting me.
Thanks so much.
Take care.